Hey you guys, it's Peter, and welcome to my channel, Peterisms, where I tell stories of my life and just little things that I have learned as I have grown into the person that I am today. And it is already getting late. Today is currently 7:30, and I haven't even vlogged yet, so but I'm trying to film as many videos as possible this month. I've done it the last 2 months, and I've had such a blast filming videos, and people are like, Peter, you're filming so many videos and so many different channels. And so I went to the pool earlier today. When I came back, I was like, you know what, I don't know that I'm going to film any videos today, and I've already filmed a drama video, a review video, a Peter Does Stuff video, and now I'm filming this because I wanted to film a video for my Peterisms channel, just because I love to keep these up and things like that. And then when I get done with that, I'm going to start uploading those videos, and then I'm going to vlog while those videos are uploading and things like that. And I don't know, I've just had such a great time this summer filming videos, and it's been really, really nice to be able to sit outside and just kind of like sit on the front porch on my glider. I guess it's a glider, not a rocker. But anyway, and sit out here and just talk to you guys on several different channels, and I've loved it this year. And I was saying to my neighbor the other day, I was like, it's going to start getting cold, and I'm going to go inside and film. And she was like, why? She was like, you can stay out here till October, November, just put on a coat, you know, put on a hoodie and things like that. And I was like, do you think? And she was like, yeah. She was like, and everybody loves you in the neighborhood talking in your camera. She was like, when you were, you know, in Arizona, everybody was coming up to me and being like, is he okay? Where's he at? You know, he's not out there filming and stuff. And so, like, sometimes if people walk by right as I'm finishing a video, they'll like stop and they'll say, so what was your video about? I'm like, oh, I read this meditation about that, or oh, I was talking about that. Well, I don't know who that person is, but that sounds interesting. So, if I had had my way today, I would have filmed videos on all of my channels, including my BookTube channel. But being that it's already 7:30, and I probably won't finish this video or get these videos uploaded till about 7:50, which means this will be a late vlog getting up, a late drama video getting up, all this kind of stuff. So let's get right into the meditations, okay? Because I know that there's going to have to probably be a day that I take off filming. In fact, tomorrow and Monday are supposed to be absolutely beautiful outside. And my plan is to go to the pool because the pool closes on Monday. The pool will be open tomorrow, the pool will be open on Monday, but after Monday the pool is going to be closed. They were kind of hinting at maybe keeping it up a little, or open a little bit longer, but I don't think that that's going to happen. So, because they put a huge sign up there today that said pool closes on Monday, which hadn't been there previously. So I think they're closing on Monday. So I'm like, I'm going to enjoy the last 2 full days of the pool. And if I get back and I'm tired, I'll lay down and take a nap, and I won't film anything. And if I get back and, like today, I felt inspired. My husband's taking a nap upstairs. So I was like, if I feel inspired, I'll film a video. So that's what's going to happen for the next 2 days. Or I just might take the next 2 days off and not film anything and take a little mini vacation. So I brought with me today the Nightlight by Amy Dean book, the book of nighttime meditations. And the reason I brought this was because I read the one for last night. It was about tree limbs and things like that. And I really like planting, like tree limbs being basically the same as us as humans, and like planting and strong foundation and things like that. And I really like this one. So I thought we would, since this is also going to be posted late, I thought I would read from this tonight. I also brought the Daily Book of Positive Quotations by Linda Picone. And then I also brought The Journey to the Heart and the Language of Letting Go by Melody Beatty. And depending on how far we get, we'll see what we get to. But I do want to start with The Nightlight by Amy Dean. I have absolutely no idea what this meditation is about. But I thought since this is going to be up late, people can listen to this maybe before they go to bed. Alright, so September 2nd, the Nightlight one. And this is my way of looking at it. There's the Spirit of God in all things and at all times, weekday as well as Sunday. And I, the great works and inventions, and I, the figuring and the mechanics. And God helps us with our headpieces and our hands as well as with our souls. George Eliot, the author, the writer. The concept of a higher power may have been difficult for us to understand as children. But many of us still question the existence of anything beyond us that will help us get well. A higher power's existence can be evidenced in many non-religious ways. The creative gifts given to an artist, people who smile at us and call us friends, these are evidence of a higher power. The higher power of the program is an overriding feeling of peace and serenity. We can take in that feeling when we detach, when we say the Serenity Prayer, when we ask for help. The Serenity Prayer is God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. We can take in that feeling when we detach, when we say the serenity prayer, when we ask for help, even when we breathe deeply and relax. There is a greater power for all of us who want to believe whenever we're ready. I believe I can find peace and serenity in my life. Tonight, I can ask for help to find it. Okay, so I don't talk a lot about God concept over here very often because I like to keep it, I don't know, I like there to be some unity of this channel, and that people that don't have any belief in a higher power, or people that are, you know, atheists, can listen to these meditations and they can take something away from it too. But I do think it's important that I share this with you. It says in here, the concept of a higher power may have been difficult for us to understand as children, but many of us still question the existence of anything beyond us that will help us get well, and that is kind of what I want to address. So, like, this is something that I really need to say, I think. For maybe one person out there that's in the same place that I was back then, and you don't have to do anything or change by this, I'm just sharing my experience, strength, and hope. You know, when I was growing up, and we were going to church on a regular basis, and I was going to Sunday school, and I was learning about Noah's Ark, and coloring, Christian coloring books, you know, well, I was Lutheran growing up, but, you know, like what I'm saying, Christian coloring books, and, you know, reading about Moses and, you know, I don't know, all of it. When you just all the different religious figures that I think they teach more some to kids than others. I never really like questioned it or challenged it. I can remember being a little kid and always just thinking, well, there's a God, there has to be a God. Like, I never questioned it, right? But when I got into junior high, you know, and I started listening to a lot of different music, a lot of folk music that my mom had introduced me to, you know, a lot of like Janice Ian from the song At 17, or, you know, Arlo and Woody Guthrie, the folk singers, or, I mean, all this folk music that made you question authority and made you question things. And I also started getting this interest in kind of occultish kind of things, like, not cultish, occultish kind of things like tarot card readings, palm readings, things like that. You know, I can remember my parents were very open to that. Like, my parents, I can remember my dad taking me to like the B. Dalton store and buying my first pack. I had many of them. No, I don't believe that I can read tarot cards, but I thought I would learn at some point. So, you know, I was like 14 or 15. I got my first pack of tarot cards. It was like the yellow and white ones, the old school ones, you know. I can't remember what they're called. It's like the Rider Pack or something like that. And a book, like how to become a, you know, tarot expert. And I thought I was going to be doing readings in the living room and things like that. I didn't. I think what was so smart that my parents did was they were willing to have me read anything. And through the years in high school and things like that, it was a lot. It was Buddhism, it was Hinduism, Christianity, you know, tarot card readings, palm readings, mediumship, things like that. They didn't care what I read about or what I wanted to find more out about, as long as it had a positive attitude towards it. As long as it wasn't condemning people or it was a damaging spiritual or religious belief. They were encouraging of that. That I would even be interested in finding out more about the world. And I think that was something very smart that they did. They didn't tell me what I had to believe. They didn't tell me that I had to believe. They just were open. But they would sit there and have conversations with me about it, you know? Like, they weren't threatened by it. It also wasn't like I was doing, you know, Wiccan rituals in the kitchen or things like that. I think if that were the case, my mom would have been like, can you explain this to me? Like, what are we doing? Like, I don't think she would have condemned it or been against it. I think she would have been like, hey, can you just kind of explain to me what's going on? I think my dad, in some kind of way, if I had done whatever, I think that he would have probably made some sarcastic jokes about it, because that's how I kind of make sense of the world. But I think that at the same time, he would have been supportive. So then I get into high school, and the high school that I went to was a high school that was heavily populated with a lot of very Christian families. And there were several big churches where I went, or where I went to school. There were several big churches around there that like all these families belonged to. The church that I went to was in downtown Indianapolis, because my parents had picked for me to, they wanted me to experience diversity within my church of economic levels and, you know, ethnic backgrounds and age backgrounds and just all kinds of people. They wanted me to experience that. They didn't want me to just see the same thing when I went to church every Sunday and believe that that was what the world was. So they very deliberately picked out the church, which my mom was a part of that church until she passed away. It was Our Redeemer Lutheran, which is downtown Indianapolis. It no longer exists. It used to be at 38th and Park in Indianapolis. My mom was also part of another church on the north side, so when it would get snowy and it was like bad, that she couldn't go to that church, but she was part of the kids club, which was the afternoon thing for kids in the neighborhood that their parents work second and third jobs. And so, hey, how are you? I was at the pool today with your wife. I was at the pool today with your wife.
Yeah, I know, I was down there earlier.
Oh, I saw you walk down there with him, yeah.
Yeah, I left, I had something to do.
It was nice today.
It was.
So she did that, and she did Altar Guild, which was getting like communion and things ready like that. She taught Sunday school. She did that her whole life. You know, it's something that my mom took a lot of pride in. She was a woman of strong faith. I never challenged her on that. My mom was also somebody that was very interested in Eastern religions and believed a lot. Like, one of her favorite books was a book called Living Buddha, Living Christ, about the similarities between Buddha and Christ, of the idea of kindness, love, compassion, understanding, and things like that. So I get into high school, and I'm surrounded by all these kids that are in this super highly Christian religious church or churches that all had the same youth group. Like, their youth group was all the same for these 3 different churches. And these kids were the ones that were the biggest bullies of me. They were the ones that said, you're disgusting for being gay, Jesus doesn't like gay people, and things like that, which was completely opposite to everything that I had ever been taught. I taught that God made people in his own image, and that Jesus loved everybody, and Jesus died for our sins. And so the things they were saying to me were not consistent with what I was saying. So they were obviously giving doctrine, which is part of the reason why I don't belong to a church today. And I know there's a lot of accepting churches out there today, but I don't find what I need spiritually in a church. I find it by listening to the cicada outside, or talking to my neighbors, or, you know, sitting in the back porch watching Boo Radley run around, listening to a song that really moves me, or watching a movie that really that's how I find spirituality today. I don't need to find that in a church. I love the saying that you don't need to be in a garage to be a car, and you don't need to be in a church to be a Christian. And I don't know really how I define myself today. I have a lot of Christian beliefs. I have a lot of Buddhist beliefs. I believe just compassion, kindness, love, understanding, forgiveness. I mean, those are basically the things that I believe in. But, you know, I'm surrounded by all these people in high school that are being the nastiest and the most bullying to me and putting me down from a Christian point of view, that I'm wrong for who I am. And I stopped going to church about 15. My parents left it up to me, and I stopped going at about 15. Partly because I didn't want to get up early on Sundays anymore. It really wasn't that deep for me. But that was also a part where I started really questioning my belief system, right? And I can remember these people in class. I can remember this one girl, and she would say, well, Jesus said, and blah, blah, blah. And I used to think, they have got to be the biggest phonies in the entire world. Like, do they really believe this? Like, these were like 16, 17-year-olds that were smoking pot and drinking on weekends and having sex, and they were preaching in classrooms about what Jesus said. And I thought, they are such phonies. Like, this is bullshit. I don't want any part of this. But at the same time, there was a jealousy that I had of their internalization of any kind of spiritual or religious belief, that I had not experienced that. I was dying to have a spiritual experience, whether it was the most phenomenal tarot card reading, or, you know, meeting somebody that spiritually, you know, moved me, whether that was a Buddhist monk, or whether that was, you know, somebody like in The Way of the Pilgrim about Christianity. I wanted to be moved, okay? I wanted burning bush kind of moment. And that was what I was looking for. Well, I got sober, you know, and I had this horrible incident that got me sober, and was sitting in treatment. And I can remember, it was like a couple months, maybe 2 months, and I was sitting in a meeting, and this guy, and he was younger, and he was talking about how he had put all these substances into his body, but he wasn't willing to bring God or any kind of higher power into his body, which in recovery, we decide what our own higher power looks like. Like, for example, one of the very first meetings I ever went to, I went for, it was this old meeting back in the day. I don't even think it exists anymore. Everybody got dressed up. It was on Friday nights, and I went to the back. It was a huge meeting, and they were talking about God in the meeting. And so I got up, and I went to the back and lit a cigarette and was standing there, and this woman came up to me, and she said, she introduced herself to me, and I put out my hand, and she said, oh, no, we hug at this meeting. And she gave me this big hug. And I'll never forget what she said to me. And she said, why did you leave the meeting? And I said, because they were talking about God, and I don't really want to be Bible thumped. I don't want to hear about all of it. And she goes, is that what you heard in there? And I go, yeah, because they were saying God this and God that. And she goes, baby, take what you like and leave the rest. She was like, just because that's what they believe doesn't mean that that's what you have to believe. You believe what works for you. And that gave me such liberating freedom. I can believe whatever I want to believe. Like, I don't have to, it doesn't have to fit into this church. It doesn't have to fit into this ideology. It doesn't have to fit into this, what this person thinks. I can believe what I want to believe. Then shortly after that is when I heard this person's lead, and they were sharing about, they would put pills in their body, cocaine, alcohol, whatever in their body, okay? Pot, to make them feel a different way. But they were never willing to trust a higher power and put a higher power into their life to trust the outcome. But they were willing to trust any other substance out there in the world. And I thought, God, that's so true. Like, I'm the same way. Like, anybody that believes anything, I'll call them a bunch of fakes and phonies, right? And then I was thinking about it later, and I thought, because people refer to us as miracles, right? And I was like, I should not have made it through that last night. Like, I should have ended up dead from overdosing, or I shouldn't have made it home that night. Well, I didn't make it home. I shouldn't have made it to the treatment center where my stepmom took me to. That was a God thing. Like, I don't know who's guiding me, who's watching over me, but somebody intervened. And I had a very spiritual memory of me talking to somebody in my car that night. I don't talk a lot about this because a lot of people don't believe in these kind of things, but I was driving my car, and at one point I just kind of leaned back and wasn't even steering the car or anything, and I was talking to somebody in my passenger seat, and I was talking about something. They were like saying, it's not your time to go yet. This is a memory that I have, okay? It wasn't just some fantastical dream. I remember this pretty clearly from back then. Parts of it are fuzzy, parts of it are very clear, but I kept on looking over. There was nobody sitting in that chair, but I was talking to somebody, you know? And I think for me, that was that burning bush moment that allowed me later to look at that and go, well, I'm here for a reason. Some miracle occurred. Something happened in my life to bring me to this moment. And I'm sitting here today, you know? And you don't have to believe in a God. You don't have to believe in a higher power. But for me, I was willing to put all this stuff in my life, food, drugs, alcohol, sex, all this stuff in my life, shopping, whatever, you know, money, popularity, whatever it was that felt important at that time. I put all that stuff in my life to try to fill me up and make me feel good. But I was never willing to do that and trust any kind of higher power. And I am not this stand on the mountaintop, preach to you the Bible person at all. Okay? And I am open to all spiritual and religious texts. That is not who I am. And I am very supportive of my friends that believe in religious ideologies or go to churches, whatever, as long as they are not condemning or hurtful of other people. I'm very respectful of them. Hey, you believe what you want to believe, you know? But I have to say that ever since I don't even want to say found God or I don't think that sounds so phony, but ever since I figured it out and I was able to allow some kind of higher power into my life, which I do call God because I think that's the easiest thing to say. Since I've allowed that into my life, the one thing I have felt since that moment was that I haven't felt alone. And I can't really explain it to you. At any moment, whenever I've been going through a breakup or sitting in a hospital or going through a terrible time with my mom passing away or whatever I'm going through, I don't ever feel alone. It's the weirdest thing. Like, I can't explain it to you. I feel like there's somebody there guiding me always. Like, I really do, you know? And if at the end of my life, I find out that there's nothing, there's no afterlife, there's no God, there's no higher power, well, first of all, I'll be gone, so it won't matter and I won't know. It's only enriched my life. It's only helped me apply meaning to things. It's only made me focus more on those tenets of the things that I believe in, which is compassion, kindness, love, understanding, forgiveness, things like that. It's only helped me more with that, you know? And I'm super grateful for that. And had I never gotten sober, I would never have been open to any of that, you know? And I did take what I liked, and I did leave the rest. And I don't let anybody tell me what I should believe or what I shouldn't believe. That's for me, and that's personal. I think everybody's relationship with the higher power or their lack thereof is personal. I don't condemn anybody for it. I don't disrespect them for it. I think that's personal, you know? There are a lot of people out there that are very, very religious, and they stand behind their religiosity to hate on gay people. And since that's what I experienced when I was in high school, today, I try to understand where they're coming from. I try to understand if they're coming from a point of fear, or anger, or ignorance. I try to understand that. My mom said to me many times in my life, but specifically about a friend of mine that turned to religiosity and told me that being gay was a sin, when she had birthday parties with drag queens giving her cake, and some of her closest friends were gay people and all this kind of stuff. And my mom said to me at that time, she said, you know, people stand behind and hide behind religion because they're scared of the world. And it gives them a language to make sense out of it. It gives them a language to speak, and it tells them what to do. I've never done that, she said. I've always believed in the principles of the religion and the spiritual beliefs that I have, but I've never let it dictate how I live my life. So I don't hate people that are religious. I'm not turned off by it. I think it's great that those people have that to stand behind. That's not the language that I speak. And the people that condemn me for it, I really don't even engage in those conversations, but when it does hit home, close to home, I try to understand where they're coming from. I try to understand it better, you know? I try to do that with a lot of parts of my life, is understand where people are coming from or understand them better. So anyway, that was a good meditation. I could talk more and more and more and more about my higher power beliefs that I didn't at first, and I wanted to get it perfect, and my sponsor was like, it says in the book, God either is or he isn't. He's like, God either is or isn't. What is he? I was like, he is. I was like so scared, right? But then, because I was like, I had to have this perfect idea of what God was. And then, you know, 2 years later is when I started really working on it. My sponsor said to me, what's your biggest fear? And I said, dying. And he said, okay, let's take that and find a book to read. Let's start your spiritual journey on that to figure out what God is. And the first book that I read was The Other Side and Back by Sylvia Brown, the psychic medium. And although she was found out later to be a fake, and I don't know if she was or not, but that book profoundly changed my life. It gave me hope. Hope is a really, 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 really powerful weapon against negativity and hatred in your life. Sometimes hope is all we have to hold on to. Me being on a spiritual journey and ultimately finding a higher power, whether it makes sense to anybody else or not, it's personal to me, gave me hope. And I'm so thankful for that. I'm so thankful for that. And I never feel alone. Anyway, let me know what you guys think about that in the comment section below. I love you, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.